So, the beautiful things in life are not bought. They're moments and they're memories. Our generation loves to create these memories. So if you ask us about retirement, it's not about retirement. It's how we live until we get there. But if we want to ensure that we can keep creating these memories once we grow old, then the reality is slightly different. It is about retirement. It's still how we live until we get there, but more importantly, it's how we live once we're there. We are Optimus Consulting. My name is Ida, and I brought David and Sophie and Michael with me today to deliver our take on how DNB can become the bank that's always there. So we're going to take you through the current situation, deliver a bit of market insights before we propose our solution. We're going to talk about impacts and risks, and sum it all up, and welcome any questions you might have. So we start by setting the scene. We see that this longer life expectancy and increase in occupation has made life insurances and pensions more important than ever. But this imposes three key challenges we have identified. Because the services are not understood, and the current national pension scheme is under an immense amount of pressure. Lastly, we see an alarming low awareness and interest with the millennials. So we asked ourselves, how can DNB acquire these young consumers while staying sustainable for the Norwegian society and profitable for DNB? We need an increase in revenue, leverage the customer lifetime value, but also make sure that we have a lot of new young retirement savers within the next 5 years. The answer that we came up with is what we abbreviated to III, because we want to improve the app so we can efficiently reach our target. We want to incentivize these early retirement savings so we can relieve some of the governmental pressure. And lastly, we would like to increase the customer base by tapping into this blue ocean of young consumers. Why are you the right people to do this? Looking at your core values, you are curious, bold, and responsible, and this aligns so well with the solution we're proposing. From our own analysis, we see that you act proactively, value your social responsibility, but really cherish this proximity you have with your consumers. And it has proven successful because you are the most popular bank among the youth. Also, it has given you a 28% market share that we can use to explore one of the opportunities that we see being that more and more millennials are saving for retirement. But yet, no bank has been successful in capturing these millennials, and why shouldn't you be the ones and the best to sail this blue ocean? Stressing the need for action even more, we see that the labor force is growing, and especially women are entering the market. Also, we see that the population is rapidly aging, and really that the fertility rates are low. So we're having less children that can support us in the future. And that leaves DNB with two tasks. First, to be aware of this social responsibility to relieve some of the pressure on the governmental pension fund, but also stay true to yourself and ensure that no DNB customer becomes a struggling pensioner. And of course, we're not the only ones looking into this, but I'll let my colleague Michael tell you a lot more about it. There you go.
Thank you, Ida. So jumping into the competitive landscape, we see there's a lot of players here in the field, each with their unique own capabilities. However, DNB has positioned themselves in a unique possibility, as you both have the financial capabilities and the willingness to pursue a digital profile, as your consumers increasingly demand user-friendliness and simplified solutions. Therefore, we believe that you should go away from only being dependent on your financial expertise and start focusing more on simplified and easy solutions. So, we came up with 5 different solutions to push DNB to a more digitalized profile. And so we analyzed them and started looking at who can we partner up with and what kind of sales decision can we make. So partnering up with small fintech companies or introducing standardized sales offerings did we see as too short-term, too low-scale, and ultimately ineffective in bridging this gap. Moving on to personalized pension funds. We think that personalized pension funds will leave millennials with too big of a risk profile, and this would counteract the idea of teaching millennials sound financial advice. Therefore, we suggest that introducing robust financial advisory and an app gamification system will be the ideal solution. So taking a deeper step into this solution. Norway's not alone. You're not the only ones with a struggling pension system. Therefore, we looked at other institutions and saw what did they do to streamline their process. So we see that in Australia and in the US, they managed to initiate the retirement process, and we saw a 56% increase in retirement saving participation in the age group between 20 and 24. Looking at the financial sector, we saw that Bank of America and a small fintech company called Acorns managed to use gamified microtransaction processes and the use of behavioral economics to start and tap into a new market of 300,000 investment accounts in less than 8 months. So what are we actually saying? Well, you have 3 key challenges. The first one is that you need to introduce a simplified financial solution. The second one is that the government will look for financial solutions or for financial institutions for solutions. And lastly, you need to create a sense of urgency among millennials. Because if you don't, well, you're going to miss out on an untapped market, and millennials might not have enough money for retirement. And now Anne-Sophie will take you through the solution.
Thank you, Michael. So, improving the app. This is your current app, and as you see, pension savings are hidden deeply within the savings map. What you need to do is to prove to your customers that pensions are actually important. Therefore, it needs to get its own icon within the key strategic main page. What you might also notice is that we changed the name from pension savings into DNB Future. The reason being that the questioner, like the people we asked, they found pension to be an old and maybe a bit boring word. Therefore, we tried to change it with something that was more new and like a fresh air. So, once you tap on it, usually you would be guided to your webpage. However, this is a no-go as it's super inconvenient for the young users. Therefore, traffic from the app has to stay in the app. Taking an example, this is Anna. She's 18 years old and just wants to start her first pension savings. She has a personalized app that's personalized to her very needs depending on gender, age, and current life situation. Anna has to take an individualized test in the beginning so she can get a recommendation based on her current situation. An important key is that Anna has the right not to follow this one. She can ultimately decide herself. So in months that are really economically pressured, she can invest 10 krona. And in a month where she will have more surplus, she can invest 500. And this flexibility is really key to catching the young millennials. Also, we have easy access to insurances. And we want to have engaging events to really leverage on this community feeling that are one of your core company values of proximity. Furthermore, we want motivational benefits to actually engage our customers to do this. And we see this is a thing that millennials really, really like. Therefore, we must leverage on it and differentiate ourselves from our competitors in this way. Last but not least, we have a goal setting with the purpose of visualizing and gamifying finances. So in a fun way, you can see your goals, you can see what the future will entail, and you can see how well you actually track these goals. Digging a bit deeper into the introduction test, we have moved information from your web page into an easy questionnaire in the app where you, based on your answers, actually will get a recommendation for you by our robo-advisors automatically. We see that this has the benefits of making our consumers really understand what pension is, as well as getting them started simply. Further, we see that consumers and millennials are actually willing to listen to robo-advisors. So, this strategy will actually solve some of the present pain points that your customers has. Most importantly, we see that women that not only live longer, but also face cultural and societal difficulties in building up a solid pension, they will have it way easier with this app, as well as busy and tired teens. So, incentivize pension savings. What we're looking to do is to give the young millennials an extra carrot of actually making pension savings. What we're looking to do is to give them beneficial loans later on in their life. We want to give them cheaper life insurance, cheaper travel insurance, and attractive bank account creation. Why we're doing this is to incentivize them to sign up by actually giving them things they need already. What's in it for DNB? Well, our analysis proves towards that catching them when they're 18 rather than 29, we can improve the customer lifetime value of 300,000 Norwegian krona. This is by making a login effect that also leaks to other profit areas later on in life. So, through this login effect, DNB will be the partners of all phases of Anna's life. You will always be there, both now when she's 18, but also later on in life when Anna retires. In the meantime, you will be able to give her the benefits of the program, as well as her, when, for instance, you get a promotion, will be able to move into your other pension offerings. The last leg, increasing customer base. you need to be where the young consumers are. So we've identified key Norwegian universities with a diverse portfolio of students. There you have to establish a present really the point and the importance of this issue. Further, you must build relation and trust in this customer proximity that is really important to DNB. Also, you can give them personalized advice and answer any questions they might have. So this was your physical plan, but what about a marketing campaign? We want to make a marketing campaign, but we don't know where to do it. Therefore, we've assessed the different options based on price, the consumer reach, and your previous and the industry's previous experience of similar campaigns. We've seen that conventional marketing didn't work out for you. Therefore, we've assessed that Facebook and Instagram proves the most viable options for DNB's campaign. So, the things that we want to promote is that only you determine your future, the government wants to officially support you, and that DNB is your friend. So, previous marketing campaign has proved inefficient because the language being communicated has been really complicated while trying to communicate a very complex problem, ultimately not reaching our end consumers that are millennials. Therefore, our simple social media campaign on Facebook and Instagram are seeking to simplify this. We also see that millennials are way more likely to become customers when engaging with a company online. Further, word of mouth is a really important effect and factor when millennials are making decisions. Therefore, we must identify and choose among these key Norwegian influencers to really get the word out there. So, in this campaign, we want to speak to their feelings. We want to scare them, and we want to face them with the scenarios that they can have in the future, really making them understand that the choices they make today affect the choices in the future. And this, of course, is to be done in the height of the consumers, so in a humorous and in a responsive manner. On Facebook, it could look like this. Choose your future, save for retirement, so not be a bad pensioner. On Instagram, the question that remains is, what meal will you Instagram when you're 80? So what is the impact of this? My colleague David will talk you through that.
Thank you, Anne-Sophie. As a bank, you need to align your interests with the key stakeholders. The major one and the biggest shareholder is, of course, the government. So you need to stress the mutual benefits that you get out of this strategy. Furthermore, you also need to align your interests with the customers, the management, and the employees. Also, all in all, in order to execute this strategy. So, how are we going to implement this strategy? Well, first and foremost, you need on Monday morning to talk with your already existing app developers to create this application or this feature into our application. Secondly, you need to launch the application as well as the marketing campaigns. These are the two must-win battles that you need to win in order to successfully execute our strategy. Along the way, we'll be able to track the effectiveness and the successfulness of this marketing campaign, and you'll realize after 2 years that we'll break even. Now we'll reach our first KPI after 3 years, a customer base of 15,000, and after 5 years, a customer base of 10% of the Norwegian youth, in order to track the successfulness. So, looking into the financials, we'll see an incremental revenue increase by 100 million Norwegian kroner by 5 years, as well as an MPV increase by 170 million. This strategy is, of course, a long-term strategy, meaning that we look at the customer lifetime value as well. For every customer that you acquire at the age of 18, on average will give you a customer lifetime value of 850,000 Norwegian kroner. So, of course, we need to acknowledge some of the risks associated with our strategy. The first one, and the major one, being existing negative perception of financial institutions. As of now, 73% of millennials would rather go to the dentist than to go and have a conversation with your bank. We want to mitigate this risk through communication with trust, safety, and success stories through, for example, Genesis. And we also have a lot of other risks associated, but I want to elaborate on those in the Q&A section. So in order to wrap it all up, I'll hand the word over to my colleague Ida.
Thank you, David. So we just presented to you, very well aligned with your values, the III strategy. So we want to improve the app, incentivize personal savings early, and then increase the number of young people to ensure a sustainable future for the Norwegian society, a profitable future for DNB, and that every young DNB customer can keep creating those memories that they value so much. Thank you, and we will now be open for questions.
Thanks for a great presentation and for your proposal. Have you considered any alternatives to this through your discussions?
Yes, we have, of course. So we actually also really thought about personalized pension funds, where you could set up a personalized pension fund that would only invest in your interests. So it could, for example, be an either completely green profile that only invests in index funds that concerns about companies that invested in green profiles. However, the reason why we didn't go with this solution is that we see it as bad financial advice. You leave them with bigger risk opportunities, and as a bank, this seems counterintuitive as what you're actually there for. And so in addition, millennials are actually increasingly uncertain about who they are, as starting an early retirement account and focusing solely on something that might not end up being the right decision is ultimately also bad financial advice.
Could you elaborate more how your solution is consistent with DNB's value of being both curious and responsible, and also to explain like how your solution is going to fulfill DNB's corporate social responsibility?
Yes, so I can start with answering the last part, because what we really see as the corporate social responsibility of DNB, having the Norwegian government as one of their major shareholders, is definitely living up to this responsibility of providing sound financial services to all inhabitants of Norway. So that's how we're going to live up to the corporate social responsibility, because that's the one that we see as the most, or the biggest, the most important one. Yeah. And if we look into or talk about how we're going to be curious, bold, and responsible, the responsible lies, of course, in the CSR profile. But being bold, that is going somewhere that no one has done before, by making these pensions more young, and doing the Future app that we hope will speak more to millennials. That's also where we go with curious, because also trying something new, we learned that the DNB is willing of taking risks, and of course learn if it doesn't go as they planned. But we're pretty sure that this is going to go exactly as we planned. Thank you.
New features in an existing app, and DNB has approximately 28% market share today. So do you think new features will more address the existing client base for DNB, or do you think this will be enough with Facebook and Instagram commercials to acquire more of the market share out there? What's your thought about that?
Well, of course, as we propose a three-pronged strategy, we believe that all three measures are necessary in order to capture and acquire all the customers that we're looking for. But we believe that simplifying the app, as we see the convenience is such a key point for young consumers, really is vital in making sure that if they don't go to the bank, then they at least stay with the bank, depending on what consumer it is, of course. And then the marketing campaign is mostly targeting those that aren't our existing consumers, and the app would benefit both parts.
Hi guys. The concept of future, or the future vision, did you discuss a little bit about how you could add something more to it outside of ending up with a TV dinner as opposed to something more? Did you discuss a little bit more on how you could sort of add things to the actual retirement around it?
Yes, so one of the things that we discussed was that we've seen on case studies that other banks have successfully implemented microtransactions. So you could have a feature where you could add, so every time you pay with your credit card, a small added fee. Let's say every time you pay for for item more than 100 kroner, it'll add 1 more kroner to that value, but that 1 kroner will go into your pension fund. So that could be an added feature you could add into the Future app.
So I I like something in your presentation when you mentioned the trust in the banks. So, because that's crucial, given that, as I mentioned before, there is this distrust that is now in the public about the banks after what happens in the crisis of 2008. How your strategy is helping your customers to actually regain that trust? Because you mentioned in your presentation, but I didn't get exactly how this is helping them to actually trust that the bank is as reliable as the government when it comes to delivering the results in the pension.
If I understand your question correctly, how we can elaborate on the trust. So DNB has proven to be the most trusted bank within Norway, especially within their current customers. So hopefully we will, both through marketing campaigns, but also through the agents that they've hired. I mentioned Genesis. They've given a huge applause to DNB for training agents to the specific needs of the customers. In that way, we will be able to not only be there for the customers, but also to prove that DNB will do anything in their hands to be there for every specific need of the customers.
And to further elaborate, one of your core company values are the proximity to customers. And we talked about making events, so educational events and women pension nights and so on. And these are also the type of event that establish the relationship that you would want to a bank in order to really ensure that there's trust among the two partners. Another initiative we took was the fact that we would go to universities and we would find some representative there. So we would be present on campus and be able to answer the questions they may have or the concerns they would have regarding robo-advisory or similar. So if they want a second opinion to a robo-advisory plan, they could just come and visit us as a stand at their university as we're ranging for both universities.
Anyone a final question? Yeah, come on.
The other thing is, I'm quite scared of your scaring tactics in order to ensure retention. How is this actually going to work? Because if you scare me too much, I prefer not to look at it. Like if you put me in that position that is miserable, I prefer to ignore that and we'll deal with that later. So is that actually something effective for keeping the people aligned, or what is the goal?
I think that's an excellent question. So what we saw is that you would do two things. You're either giving the carrot or the stick. So the carrot here is the sort of benefit program you get through saving more in your retirement funds, and then you would get these exclusive deals on various other bank financial advices. And so the stick, as you are concerned about, maybe it would scare people away, but we really feel that in order to really capture their attention, you have to come with something dramatic. And what really speaks to people or millennials is something that's simple and just sort of a viral trend. And I believe that could capture their attention in the most effective way.
I could ask this final question. It's because you are also part of the Scandinavian welfare system, so that's why I could ask you this question. But this kind of putting up, I can't really remember your wording, but you had something you could not trust the state, you could not trust the government to take care of you. That's quite a political statement. So how do you look at that? I mean, DNB representing this, pushing this towards our clients. How could that fire back on us in any way?
I think what we tried to say with that statement is that the government can't sufficiently cover you, because the word sufficiently, it was what does this. Because young people don't know that 45% of their own pension is personal savings. So that's what we want to inform them about. This is as much as an informative campaign. So of course, when you click on the campaign, you're taking to more information. Because we need to inform and educate the young consumers that the government will not have enough funds if you don't have anything for yourself. And that's also a way that we're going to relieve this governmental pressure. So we will make sure that everyone can take care of themselves for the future. So it's mostly educational. Thank you.
I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.